What up, family? Welcome to Super Heru Radio. I am your host, Aseer the Duke-Tears. Sorry for the little technical difficulties, but our haters at Blog Talk always like to make it interesting for us. But either way, one monkey don't stop no show, and we still here. So we give thanks to the praises to the ancestors and to you guys for always holding us down and communicating with us on moon days. So I hope everybody's week again was good. We lost a couple of people, so I definitely want to give a respect, condolences, and shout out to the families of his brother Heavy D, who coincidentally is Selena's first cousin, which is crazy. But to him, we definitely want to say peaceful journey, send him on a peaceful journey as well. As brother Big Joe Frazier, we definitely want to say peace to him, send him a peaceful journey, as well as Eric Sermon. He died, right? He didn't, right? Okay, thank you. There were reports that he had died as well, but thankfully that's not the case. So we definitely want to send him love and light, just for being, able to maintain it, and for the contributions that he gave to hip hop in general. All of these brothers, but specifically speaking, I'm glad that that one he was able to dodge that. You know what I mean? So that's good. Also, a lot of this is a wake-up call for a lot of those people who may have wanted to get themselves in better shape or whatever. Now is the time. Well, it's not just now. It's always a good time to get involved with stuff like that. So it's definitely advantageous for those people who have been feeling like they need to do something more physical to definitely do that, especially now, just due to the time cycles and everything that is kind of going down that, we're all aware of. So I definitely want to give that thanks and praise to the Creator for not taking everybody, you know what I mean? But specifically speaking, there were definitely some ill coincidences with the Heavy D thing, like the fact that Heavy D died at 44, you know what I mean? Which is interesting, because Joe Frazier was born in 44 and died at 67. Heavy D died at 44 but was born in 67. So there's definitely, I'm learning, or at least studying these things in terms of how sometimes these deaths manifest in threes. Also, the mother of Bill Cosby, who played his mother on the Cosby Show, she returned too. So I'm still going to do the knowledge to her and her numerology and all that. But we're all connected, man. It's what this thing is showing and teaching me. Also, because I'm doing the knowledge to the whole Heavy D thing, and I'm like, why all of a sudden they would try to, or situations would happen or arise in which he would go down? Because this nigga just lost all this weight. Like, how you lose all of the weight and all of the stuff that was making you potentially sick or whatever, and then once you get healthy and shit, then you die. Like, what kind of part of the game is that? You know what I mean? Also, I'm doing the knowledge that the fact that this dude has, when he moved to Beverly Hills or whatever, he's there doing his thing, living out there. When he got interned, in terms of him dying, bless the dead, and them interning him to the morgue, Lindsay Lohan is the one in the morgue with him. Lindsay Lohan also grew up in Staten Island. The other thing I was doing a nod to the fact with this is when they went after the brother True Master. Big up to True Master. The story allegedly on him was, for people who don't know who he was one of the founding beat architects of the Wu-Tang Clan. And he put out a series of great lectures, informational lectures and stuff in the quote-unquote conscious community as well. The best to me, in my humble opinion, is the one he did on Bavaria, because it correlated to a lot of the things that I had been going through and understanding about Bavaria at the time. So specifically speaking, the brother allegedly gets caught up or got caught up with some shorty, and she said that she was allegedly holding her ransom or trying to do whatever. Long story short, it turned into a big chase, like manhunt, where they was looking for the car, This is in Harlem, looking for the God, and eventually they was able to capture Muff at his crib. Now, the funny thing about it is that he did live in Nicky Barnes' old crib. So, genetically speaking, it's in the news. It's in the paper. All of this was in the paper. Nah, G, I'm trying to holler at the God, man. I'm trying to see what's up with him, because I haven't spoken to him since we left New York. But he was always cool with me. So in that interim, when it went down like that, I'm like, okay, I hear what they're saying, but whatever, I'm gonna reserve my judgment until I speak to the man himself, But I'm also doing the knowledge that this went down right around the time that there's supposed to be another big Wu-Tang push. They're doing another Wu-Tang push. You know what I'm saying? Where Wu-Tang Clan is about to really come back out and go extra hard. So I find it funny that right when that happens, this is what's happening. You know what I mean? Again, another Staten Island group. So I don't know what's going on in Staten Island or Long Island or Yonkers, but there's definitely something up with artists and people specifically coming out of that borough that for some reason the beast is going in on right now. Now, we all know that Montauk and all that stuff is out there and no doubt and all of that. But at the same time, as metaphysicians and as celestial scholars, we have to allow ourselves the luxury of sometimes not knowing and allowing the universe to divine or to reveal to us what it is we're supposed to be doing the knowledge to, specifically dealing in this situation. So I just want to say peace to the brother, and hopefully, everything can be brought to light in that context. But specifically speaking, like I said, with this whole push and them doing whatever it is they're doing or whatever it is they want to do pertaining to this thing, I don't see, it's not a coincidence that, this chick Lohan is now they've got this bitch like an Undertaker, from a brother. And again, of all of the people in morgues in the world she could have been working at in L.A., how is it just right there, you there with Heavy D? But again, when we start to talk like this, or when we begin to go in on what it is we see potentially manifesting, there's another side of the community. Yeah. There's another side of the community that, may disagree with that, which is their prerogative. I'm just here to go over what I peep going down with this game, you know what I mean? Because there's definitely something going on to that. Another interesting thing, brother, one of our brothers, one of the great supporters of the show, he emailed me something in which there was a big robbery at Lincoln's grave, in which they busted into his grave and stole the copper sword that allegedly sat at the upper part of the crypt that he's entombed in. So within that, man, Lincoln, somebody went up in there and basically popped it off. The sword is copper, again, to go with the fact that as he was referred to as a Melungian, a.k.a. a black man, him and his running mate, the jet black Hannibal Hamlin. There are a lot of people, Caucasian people in this society to this day, who look at him as a traitor. The reason why they did that, again, was not only based upon what he did with the so-called slaves, because you got to understand, the slaves that he allowed to be free never happened. That never happened. When we talk about the whole instance of the so-called Emancipation Proclamation, what we're really talking about is the usurpation of the Southern Hemisphere's ability to sustain itself autonomously from what the Northern Hemisphere was doing. And because this whole war, this whole conflict derived and came out of the dealings of our ancestors dealing with their cousins who brought over their corporate slaves with them, there's definitely been a problem of mainstream America as dealing with Lincoln. It's an obsession, but at the same time, they look at him as a traitor. So a lot of times when things like this go down ritualistically, it's an issue. Just like people don't know that this is basically the 13th time that this dude's grave has been messed with. When they first buried him, the Freemasons came and stole his body. And then it became a big thing about trying to find where the body was at and everything else. They just came out with another movie recently called The Conspirator. And in this movie, they basically was trying to push the whole thing on a woman, basically saying that this woman was the one who basically orchestrated the shit, even though they knew about Booth. And another thing about Booth people don't know is that Booth was a Jesuit. He was a member of the Holy See. People that don't know what the Holy See is the Vatican. So he was a direct representation or direct operative of the Knights Malta and Vatican. This picture is a Booth wearing a fez. You understand? So specifically speaking, when Booth popped the nigga, he said something in Latin that basically said, I think it was ex emptor tyrannius, something like that, which basically busts down to death to the tyrant, because Lincoln was seen as a tyrant based upon the forced jurisdictional override that he was putting on those members of the South. So specifically speaking, recently it has just came out recently that the southern states may be starting to receive a surplus based upon all of the shit that happened in terms of the BP thing and all this other shit. Oh, speaking of which, BP, they just got another contract to start drilling offshore. You know what I mean? So definitely look out for that. And it's basically like maybe 150 yards or 200 yards from where they first messed up everything at. So people should do the knowledge for that, especially around the Gulf areas. You gotta watch out, because you know how these people are. They don't learn from their mistakes. They just keep making more, and then forcing everybody else to deal with it. Another thing that's going on is very interesting in material politics is the fact that your man Warren Buffett is coming out now, and he is buying DirecTV, IBM, and Intel, which basically then means that this one dude is basically going to run basically all the communications, because other than Viacom, that's basically everybody. Now, the funny thing about, again, Warren Buffett is he acts like the great philanthropist and this, and that. But, again, his father and his grandfather were card-carrying members of the Reich. What Reich are we talking about? We're talking about the Third Reich, okay? We're talking about Nazis. You have to understand the whole, look, man, we got to look at it like this. We technically are still dealing with the remnants of World War II. We are technically still dealing with the outset of what happened when these people decided to have the coup d'etat and then plunge Europe into war. And this is exactly where we are right now. If you look at the beginnings of World War II and we're looking at right now, what's going on right now, we are exactly in the same place. They had already had the assassination. The assassination in this case was the killing of Gaddafi, right? But in this instance now, instead of it being Europe that's going to go through the initial instance of the World War, it'll be the Middle East, or what they refer to as the Middle East, which is really Africa. So in that, the World War basically has already popped off. You notice that certain countries they'll attack and certain countries they won't. They'll pseudo-attack Libya, but they just won't mess with Syria directly. Why? Because Syria directly is one of the member banks of the OPEC Arabic Emirates. And these Arabs have an agreement of which that they would support. Like, one thing you got to understand, everybody in the Middle East hates the Saudis. Don't believe me? Ask somebody who's Arab specifically, who's causing all the problems in the Middle East. They're going to tell you the Saudis. They're always going to mention the Saudis. Why? Now, the Saudis got a kingdom the same way the Syrians got a kingdom. So what's the difference? The difference is that with the Syrians are coming from a dynasty called the Assad dynasty. The Assad dynasty, initially, when we talk about it, can be traced all the way back maybe let's be generous, let's say 80 years, going all the way back, again, to the time of World War II, in which those so-called Arabic countries, between 1900 and 1914, the word Arab did not exist. You understand? That means that when people are saying that they were speaking Arabic, you have to understand that that's not the real term for the words or the language that them people were speaking. Because prior to, again, 1901 to, let's say, 1914, let's say prior to 1914, the word Arab was nowhere in the lexicon. That was still being created or perpetuated as a potential pseudo-word of art, racial classification by the British. Up until that point, them people was called Bedouins, or they was called Moors, or they were called Berbers. It's either one of those three. And all of those basically mean Moor, essentially. And at that time, those people was mad black. But what was happening was that the Turks were basically still kind of waning. Back in the days, they used to refer to the Turkish Empire as the old man of the West. And at the time, at the outset, when the Moors basically fell, right, well, let's do the hierarchy tree. In the top, right, is the Moors. Under the Moors, you had the Mystic Turks. Under the Mystic Turks, you had the Mamelukes. Under the Mamelukes, you had the British. Under the British, then was everybody else. So the British were like the cops of Europe up at the time. You know what I'm saying? Or prior to the times of the Turks. Actually, no, excuse me. Prior to the time of the Turks, the British Empire was just basically another corporation. You know what I'm saying? But it was the only corporation that was functioning like that at the time. China, that had already insulated itself, was like that too. Who, if we are really keeping it 100, China was the first country in the world to produce fiat currency for its people. The emperor and them people at the time, when they were trying to basically take control or whatever, they basically put a moratorium on people having their own gold. So people had to turn in their gold, sound familiar, and then give it to the state, and then the state would hit them off with paper money. This is how the emperor of, let's going back to the Tokugawa period, well, actually, we can go even further than Tokugawa, but if we talk about the Tokugawa period, let's say going to the Edo, both of them periods is when the paper currency thing became a modicum of exchange for most people. Only the Bushido, a.k.a. the samurai, could hold on to that, could have gold and silver and stuff like that. Well, that got switched up when Admiral Perry came on behalf of the United States and basically bogarted his way up into Japan and then basically brought more gold to the people and started basically courting the Yakuza and the underworld Japanese gangs to help them eventually commit a foment coup d'etat over the traditional Japanese hierarchy, the emperor at the time. But in order for them to do that, they had to get rid of the Bushido class. The Bushido class were the Moors. The same katana blade that's curved is the same scimitar, or what they call a scabbard, that you would see the Moors one. It's created the same way. So what? Because one is thinner and one is bigger, they both had independent origins? No. Because everybody in China at one time, we know, was all jet black too. So we're talking about, again, the diaspora as a form of forced migration based upon the modern society's need to disavow the importance of the ancient ones or the ancient landowner, which in a sense was us. This is what the movie The Last Samurai was about, with Tom Cruise and all of them. And you can see, even in that movie, how dark samurais was. But, however, in Moorish, in the Western paradigm that basically has instituted itself ever since then, we wind up in a position in which a man can't really be a man like that. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that we're in a society in which men are under attack. Everybody knows that women are under attack, but when we look at men, a real man, a strong heterosexual man, okay, one who stands for his own convictions, one who is not going to bow down to what somebody else want to do, regardless of how much money they give him, regardless of how much they try to blackmail or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Men like that have that type of level of integrity are so feared in any society in which the people have been occupied, because those are people who can potentially galvanize and raise the vibration of people to want more for themselves and then put themselves on a trajectory to get that. They don't need that type of inspiration from men, specifically the original Asiatic black men, right? So the whole purpose is to effeminize men and make men more sensitive, okay? That was the whole buzzword in the late 80s into the early 90s. We want men that could be sensitive, men that can listen to us, men that can truly empathize with me. But don't no woman want no crybaby man. I don't give a damn how sensitive she wants the nigga to be. You don't want no man at the first side of anything. He's to start bawling. You don't want that. You want a man. A woman want a man. But see, the thing is when the black man be the man, then that's an issue. Nobody want to give him the props or respect for that, especially the original woman. Now, I'm not saying all original women, but a lot. To the point where they got a book out, they got a chick out right now, black woman, right now, that could wrote a book talking about black women need to just be with white men and leave black men alone altogether. But I'm like, bitch, how you get here? Your father ain't white. Your mom ain't white. You black. Your daddy black, and you full black. You're not even like a mix or nothing. You see? But it's never, if you do the knowledge, it's never really the so-called full black people that be on that. Excuse me, it's never so-called mulatto or mixed people that be on that. You need to just be with white people shit. When you ask certain mulatto people who are considered mulatto in this society, that they tell you something totally different. They try to go totally dark. Like, look at videos. Look at how it's played out in videos. If there's a light-skinned rapper, then that means that the women that he is with in the video are going to be dark-skinned. If it's a dark-skinned rapper, then that means that the women in the video is going to be light-skinned. They always want to flip you on the opposite. Same thing. Like, I was reading this thing about GQ, Vogue or whatever, and this chick, Zoe Saldana, the chick from Avatar, and the anorexic chick from Colombiana and all this. She was talking about, she started going in and trying to air them out about how they be hating on black women and they don't have no black women on their covers and all this shit. And I'm like, but shorty, you've been married to a white man for the past 11 years. What are you talking about? What do you care? Why do you even care about that? You ain't black. I mean, are you? Same thing. The Latinos do the same shit. I was looking at they just did a whole spread for one of these magazines. Again, I'm just, in between workshops. I'm en route. I'm waiting for my next client or whatever. So I'm newsstand over here. So I'm looking at shit. And I look at this magazine and it's Latina or whatever, and I open it up. Everybody's in red dresses. But there's no dark-skinned Latinos in that shit. None. The darkest person they had in there was Zoe Saldana. And I'm like, are you Spanish now? Like, what's going on? Why is it that the chicks, people like her, people like Paula Patton, people like these other chicks that stay with a white man inside them? Why they be the ones to be the most vocal about shit? But then your own dark-skinned black sisters is the ones that's trying to get to that level. And if that's the case, why is it then if you want to be with somebody that's not of your race, fine, do that. But why has it got to be a recruiting thing? Why does it have to turn into a recruitment that you got to get all black women to co-sign what you want to co-sign? What's up with that? Guys don't do that. Like, if my man come to me and say he want to involve me in some shit or whatever, and I say no, he ain't going to stress me about that shit. If he's my friend, he's not going to do that. But then if he has an ulterior motive or agenda, what he may do is try to jive my ego and say, like, oh, you scared, you don't want to do it like that, to then almost try to, like, get me and do that. When shit like that happens, that's what lets me know that this person has something else invested in it and is not necessarily telling me what position I'm really going to play. So in situations like that, that's called a backhand setup. Situations like that, you know, it tends to get me to look at the person I'm dealing with. So I'm saying all of that to say that when it comes down to this thing, this racial identification thing that has been a part of American society from the beginning. Like when you hear these black people talking about how everything is beyond race, it's not about race, and get over race and all this other bullshit, you need to smack them black people in the face because they're lying to you and they're lying to themselves and they're trying to get you to co-sign a fictitious reality on top of the fiction that we already live in. How can this country not be about race? Like, how can it not be based on all the shit that has happened racially in this country, specifically to us? Because we're the only ones in this country that ain't got their grievances redressed. We're the only ones. And every time we're about to get our grievances redressed, what happens? Another ethnic group comes in and kicks you out to the back, to the point that you got Moors petitioning for recognition. This is where we are. You understand? When in history, the Moorish Empire was the first empire in the world to recognize the Federal United States Corporation. We were the ones that kept our brothers and sisters from across the seas enslaving these bastards. But now we got to go to them to get recognition. Why? We don't got to do that. That's not the way. But I am in full support of people working or striving to get to a common ground together if they can do that. But I just know that term together is suggestive. It's suggestive as to what together means for the people who are involved with the shit. And a lot of times, together don't mean everybody. It don't mean all of us together. It mean a certain group of people, and then the rest of us under them. And that's real, you know. So in talking about this dude Buffett and what he's talking about with in buying IBM, Intel, and DirecTV, you have to understand, IBM was the initial computer company that was founded in the late 1920s, early 1930s, that was there to help facilitate who was going to get processed through the concentration camps. Those Jewish people, don't believe me, do the knowledge, those people who consider themselves Jewish, who have the so-called tattoos and shit on their arms, you have to understand in IBM that them tattoos was not just serial number tattoos. Those tattoos were all uploaded into that computer. That computer was the original IBM computer that they refer to as the Beast. Don't believe me? Get William Cooper's book, Behold a Pale Horse. You know he was telling the truth because they killed him to the point where they so ill with their ritual with killing him, how they just can't let him rest. In the movie Red that I was talking about, that I found the whole code with November 9th, 748 or whatever in it, in that same movie, the guy that was chasing Bruce Willis and them was named William Cooper. And he worked for CIA. Like, what kind of, like, this is what I mean. You are their enemy even in death. So if you are their enemy and they have based an entire society, world, on race, on their race being above yours specifically, how is it not about that? How can it not be about that? Other day, we at the park, and this is where I see a lot of it play out with the children of these racist people or whatever. And we at the park, and more playing, little girl playing or whatever. This little flaxen, blonde-haired Nordic girl walks over to Selena and is like, why do you do your hair like that? She's like, what do you mean? This girl is like almost 5 maybe. Maybe 5. She's like, I don't know. It's just ugly. Look at it. And then she looked at her, and then immediately, right, we look at each other, and on the mental tip, we looking at this child, and it's like, this is a child. Where's the mother? We turn around, look at this mother. This woman is so damn shamed. So then when the mother come back over, she heard what happened. Now she come back over trying to save face. She can't even look clean in the face. She was like, well, I don't think it's ugly. I think my hair is beautiful. You know, it's just not like yours. But obviously somebody in your house doesn't like hair like this. And then the little girl gets quiet. The mother come over. She's like, oh, I'm sorry. She's like, you don't got to apologize for her. She says, you ain't got to apologize for her. I'm not taking it personal. It's just that, you know, not all original people are going to be like me. And actually, her saying that says more about you than her. And again, this is what we find ourselves doing. Like, a lot of people talk shit about these white people, but how many of these black people have you ever seen really go in directly to these black people? Because these white people, because to keep it real with you, white men scare a lot of black folks still. You understand? To this day still. And it's like that, in a sense, for a reason. And the reason is we are the cowardly lion in the Wizard of Oz story. We have not found our heart to be able to rise up and go at these niggas. You see what they're doing with these Occupy people. So the same way in the 60s, the same way in the 30s, you had the Depression, you had the war, you had the banking holidays, you had the citizens feeling disenfranchised from the government. It's the same thing going on right now. So how can these people tell you that you are in a progressive society? What in your society, what about your life has gotten better? Physically speaking now. I'm not talking about the metaphysics and the celestial. I'm talking about on the physical level, on the terran level that we all share. What has changed for you in your life physically, betterment, that has come from your participation within this society? Be honest with yourself. Don't talk to me about money, and don't talk to me about having a home, because those things are what everybody's supposed to have that. Nobody in this country is supposed to be homeless. Nobody in this country is supposed to be hungry. Not when this country consumes 45 to 51% of the world's resources going to one place in the world, and you wonder why people all over the world starving. How can this one place? And we're not even talking about the whole continent. We're just talking about North America. How can North America consume more than almost every other country in the world? This is not capitalism. They got everybody twisted with that shit. Because you'll hear me saying this, and niggas be like, oh, so I'm supposed to just not make money, just not have nothing? No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, though, is that if we all agreed that what we can do for each other, we all would have a lot more. But we can't live like that in this society. Even if we wanted to, you can't necessarily do that. Well, let me not put a limitation on it. I don't want to say you can't do it, but it's going to be very hard to do it, because even before you even get it up and running, you got to find the cream of the crop from your environment, your peer structure, your peer groups, to associate, to allow an association to be created, to allow then a confederation to be created, to then allow something general to be manifested from these groups. But we can't even trust each other to give each other books back. We done borrow from each other. How are we going to do that when it comes to a nation or a group or a government? Do we even know what type of government we want? You hear all of these ones talking to you about, like I said, all of the different structures and stuff like that have existed, and how we can do this, and that, and that's very true. We can do a lot. But what we can do is being outshined by what we're not doing. And what we're not doing is focusing on the initial aspect of ourselves and what our intent is behind this consciousness shit. Why do you even want to be conscious? Do you really want to be conscious? Ask yourself, do I really want that? Some people feel almost peer pressured into this shit because it can make you feel like that. Some people get into it and then are working to maintain it, but it can be a very lonely road, man. And it can be very, very arduous when you're used to things like social gratification, when you're used to things like people satiating your ego, when you're used to being around people who don't have your best interests in mind but act like they're doing more for you than they're really doing. When you're used to those type of things, and then you switch up everything and you say, no, I want to be about this consciousness shit now, You got to understand that's coming from a different perspective now. Now, everything, whatever cellular structure that your body has aligned itself to 7 years prior to that, because remember, every 7 years, all of the cells in your body die. And as the last one dies, all of the other ones come back online and will last you for another 7 years. So your life then is measured in 7-year interims or 7-year cycles. This is where the term 7-year itch comes from. While a lot of relationships or whatever around the 7th year start getting kind of haywire. You know what I'm saying? So what you got to do, again, is understand that the choices that you make is what's dictating your level of consciousness. It's not about how many books you read. It's not about how many books you don't read. It's not how many lectures you go to. It's not about how many lectures you do go to. It's not about that. It's about your level of involvement. How far are you willing to go, or how much are you willing to invest in this thing? Is this consciousness more important than your social gratification? Meaning, if you had to be in a situation, like for instance, again, I'm not just tooting my own horn, but I'm showing you my level of commitment with certain things in the beginning when I first started with it. And for about 5 years straight, every Friday night, from about 6 to about 5 in the morning, me and this woman would drive out to Queens and build on this paperwork situation and getting it straight with Sister Myra, the one that was Sister Myra in Queens, not Sister Myra L in down south. And we would go out there religiously. Now, there was times when I needed to do other things, or we wanted to do things, or we wanted to party. You know what I'm saying? So we was just getting together, too, and all of that. But at the same token, it was more important for us to figure out how Morgan Stanley was able to steal over $100,000 out of the account we had, the account that the Queen had. So that was more important. 5 years later, we said, okay, we got a handle on it, and then started moving. But at the time we was doing it, when we would be building with people in select groups, because it was more a one-on-one private thing, we were just more localized in our community. People would see me and be like, oh, here you go with that shit again. You know? Literally. Or like I would see certain people, we go to a certain party, whatever, certain people just stay away from me because they think I'm going to just talk this shit all night. And I don't, because I'm not the type to want to press. But if you ask me certain shit and we talk, then I'm going to let you know. I'm not going to, not keep it real. Funny thing is, now them same people, I be seeing them on Facebook, these niggas is Moors and talking about holding sovereignty classes and all this other type of shit. And these niggas was the ones, they just started. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that. And it's always been like that. Don't be so naive when you think we sometimes become victims of nostalgia, I'm seeing too, in which we read about these ancient societies and our ancient cultures and the things that we was doing and was not doing and was digging everything up and how we was ruling and all of that. And it's almost this nostalgia comes over us where we act like the people who lived back then, who was us, didn't experience some of the things that we're experiencing now. Now, they may not know what it's like to experience to be in a car. They may not have had cars back then, but they had real toilets. They had working toilets. They had gas-powered street lights. You know what I'm saying? They had a lot of the same amenities, and if they didn't have it, you wouldn't be able to have it now. Don't be so caught up in American history to think that Thomas Edison did anything other than steal other people's patents under pain of death. Thomas Edison was an idiot. Not to say he didn't go to school and learn and all of that, but he was one of them type of people who was always looking, who was always scared that the other person had a better invention. So he built up enough cred with the rest of them banksters out there where they basically started popping it and banking and supporting him. But when Tesla was doing everything he was doing with bioluminescence and was talking about giving everything for free, they sicked Edison on him. His secret name, or allegedly one of his secret names in a little group, was Khan, Khan. So you wonder, when he created the company, Con Edison, right? They just spell the C-O-N because that's what they doing. They conning everybody. Not only that, this dude, the guy, the black man that actually created the thing that made the light bulb work, after the black man helped him and do all of that, mysteriously, the patent wound up under Edison. How can that be? Because we live in a parasitic culture. And that's real. So much so that it's okay for a white woman to be complicit in the murder of her daughter, go out partying, making out with dudes and girls, going to orgies. When you read the transcript of the story, like about this girl's doing meth and all types of stuff or whatever. And her parents know that this chick is a deadbeat with all that. The baby wound up dead. The girl goes to trial. Nobody is convicted on nothing. The only loser is what? The baby, who's dead. The mother's still out here, allegedly playboy or hustlers trying to get her to pose for them. So my Casey Anthony, on one hand. Then on the other hand, you got a white male who, so long as he's winning championships, can have sex with as many young black boys as possible. To the point where they said that they was setting up situations where they was flying boys out for this degenerate, for this deviant. And what do the white people do? The Caucasian people do at Penn State? They hide it. They hide the secret. The whole staff, all old white men, Caucasian men, for some reason, know this is going on, but because they keep Penn State first and 10, it's all good, they turn a blind eye to it. The same way the white man did the skullduggery in the movie Rosewood and had the black man keep the secret for him. And look what happened. The shit burned down, right? The same thing at Penn State, but only in Penn State, they're not burning it down based on what these white men did to these poor little black boys. They burning it down because they don't want their coach to go. One white man on the interview said he could take my kids so long as we stay in the championships. What? Do you see? And these are the people you want to have babies with, black men? Black women? These are the people you want to do that? This is the culture. This is the type of culture or the type of society or world that you think is okay for them to be in. But again, but when you don't do nothing to somebody like Eddie Long, right? Another one, pedophile, young black boys. Does it change the fact because he's a black man? No, it makes it worse. But what's the connection? The connection is that they're all Freemasonically affiliated. This don't mean that every Caucasian Mason or black Mason is involved with this level of the game, but it is to say that if you join something, a society, and that society is known for doing something, and you are a member of that society, then you are a member of that. That's why the Bible says, be sure you are of, you can be in it, but not of it. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Give unto him what is his own. And keep what is yours for yourself. Know the difference between yourself, the living soul, and the corporation created for them to do the establishment. So we're in a situation, again, where on all sides, you got people preying on you, the children. And again, black children this is happening to. Just like they had in the paper a little while ago They had the so-called Christian couple that adopted these black babies, these black children from Africa, and beat them to death on some religious shit. You think they're the only ones? You think that you really think if it's really about children, there are more orphan children in Eastern Europe than anywhere else in the world, including Brazil, including Africa, including the United States. Gangs of them, as young as 3, on the street, robbing, having sex for money, all of that, all up and down Eastern Europe. Because it's legal over there. All of the slave trade and all that come from Russia. Then they import a lot of these Caucasian women from Eastern Europe or whatever into Israel. And then in Israel, they hook them up in the brothels or whatever and own them. Then they start selling them. And some of them get sold or whatever. This is where the baby black market is at. So then some people go over there, buy their little Israeli kid. These Jews, some Jews got it hooked up where you go over there, do them, get whatever type of kid you want, whatever nationality you want, bring it back home. That's why a lot of them get them as babies. These are all side hustles that come from war and the destabilization and the denationalization and forced migration of peoples. Because the records of who these people are, where they are, they're all gone. Because the first thing that happens when these armies come in is that they blow up the government, the record building, the state, the state record building. So that way they could just lay claim to everything because all the records of who owned everything is not really there. So they invade you, blow up your country, and then create a situation where they got to stay there now to help protect you in the country. And then before they leave, they force you to let them keep a garrison in the country just in case they invade again. How can the United States have over 175 military bases all over the world? That's more than every other country in the world. You don't see black people breaking their neck to adopt Caucasian babies. If that's the style, like if that's what's going on in Hollywood and that's the style, how come you don't see Jay-Z and these people adopting these white babies and that? Only person you see do that is who? Michael Jackson. And you know them babies ain't his. So who them babies belong to? Peerage is a deep aspect of satanic ritual to these people. And it is an age-old practice that they learn through those Freemasonic people who help raise them up. So everything they get is a bastardized version of what we already gave them. Yet, they have instituted it in perpetuity and now has become a form of autonomous programming. So there's certain things that we all do culturally that became a process of us doing, and by that became ritual. But now, because of the equal rights and all of that, civil rights, it created a system where you reduced yourself to be equal with them and how they raise their children. You see? It's no coincidence that the rise of prison cases between, when you look at the demographics, let's say in New York, from the late 60s into, let's say, 1980, there was a rise in black males and Latino males going to jail that coincided at the same time with the level of family court cases that were being brought. Because initially, in the early ones, it started out as a hustle with some black families to start pimping the government, in which the woman would go and would get stuff or whatever, and this became what they call the welfare millionaires and all of that. doesn't change the fact that the more you practice something, the more that something is practicing you. So when you, for instance, when you or people use those Wii devices and be dancing and jumping and all these dancing games in front of the computer and all of that, and you're dancing to mock the archetype on the screen, what is happening is that the computer, through the impulses and vibrations, biorhythms that's coming through your hands and going into the rods, those rods are being put into the computer and it's processing your movement. It's learning how to move through you, through millions of people, all at once, every time they use that damn game. And all of that is being uploaded into digitized files of you that create a holographic projection of what they would like you to be, and then they can invest or whatever algorithm, because now they study that. When they study that, they study in you. And everybody got one. To deal with the magnitude of something like that in our society, they've created the term conspiracy theory to dissuade people from believing that something like that could be possible. At the same time, they're showing me movies and technology every day where robots is, where they're trying to grow flesh on robots and all types of other shit, where they're creating cloned humans through in vitro fertilization. When we was coming up, they called them the test tube baby. But now, just like an insect would do, they fill you up with mad eggs just in case, because when they give you one or two, they won't take. So they fill you up with mad of them, the same way a spider or an animal would have a litter. They are now doing this to human beings, and human beings are volunteering for this to experience what it's like to be a parent. Yet, the natural way or natural law dictates that certain things are made pertinent for a reason. But this society says that everything that you think of your own thoughts is wrong. So you are prone to not believe you. So you could be with your woman and she has something on and you tell her she look beautiful. She believe you, but at the same time, she believe you to a point. Because she has her own self-image that she has to deal with. And everything in this society, if you're a black woman and you want to be on the magazine cover, you got to be bent over or with your ass out or naked or something like that. And all of these black women that's, doing that, they're not being forced. Some are, but most aren't. Because this society, just like with the black male, they've now made it where the only way you can get on as a Hollywood star or whatever, you gotta have a sex tape, you gotta have a rap song, and you gotta have like blonde hair or something. You're willing to do that and kiss a girl here and there, you'll be on. So again, it's not about talent. It's not about integrity. It's about the perception of those things. So like Erykah Badu said one time, she said, people want a true artist or whatever. They want to have the aspect, but they don't necessarily really want to have it. You know what I mean? Because to really know the truth is to then be content with that. And this society says, again, and we are Moors. Therefore, by nature, we just accumulate. Because when you slow down in this society, you dead. So the modicum of exchange in our community has degenerated into a mirror, a almost black mirror of what their society is. This is why we've seen the rise or preponderance of all of these black people, hurting their children and killing their children and all this other stuff. At one point, that wasn't something that we were contributing to en masse. And we're still not. Those isolated incidents don't make it an epidemic. Yet apathy is allowing it to exist. And the more we don't find out who killed Biggie, who killed Tupac, who killed Gugu, who killed Patrice Lumumba, who killed any of these people, they keep doing it. Them killing Martin Luther King was them killing the whole black aspect of the civil rights movement. That was it. But he set himself up for that when he chose the name Martin Luther and when he chose to become Martin Luther instead of Michael. So a lot of times if you do readings and you have gone through an aspect where you have changed your name, you would have to do excuse me. You would have to do. I'm sorry, I was just talking. Hold on. I'm sorry, William. I'm sorry, man. When you create a substance where people can't find an aspect to hold on to that comes from themselves, they then latch on to everything else that they think represents them. This is due to the mirror aspect that comes from the higher realms, in which, because you have no body there, you have to instantaneously create symbols or images that reflect you as a sentient being. So again, imagine what it would be like to be you, but not to have a body that represents you. You would then have to represent yourself by imagery or archetypes that manifest themselves as substantial references of power or intelligence or whatever. So that's mirrored in this reality by people creating images of themselves from a physical thing that then becomes the representation of them in the world. So it becomes a play on you learning more about yourself. Yet this society looks at that as being narcissistic. So if you really think about it, a lot of the things that you do that sustain you or would enhance who you are is twisted in this society and turned as in some way you being vain. So if you're a man and you take pride in your appearance, and somehow that makes you effeminate, you see. But when I was growing up, my mother told me that a man was supposed to brush his teeth, you know what I mean, be clean, you know what I mean, iron his clothes. And then her boyfriend at the time taught me how to iron a shirt, you know what I'm saying, iron pants, wash my clothes, like these types of things, take pride, how to tie a tie, these types of things. And yes, we know the tie represents the noose and all other things, but in lieu of being able to be in the bush or the rainforest or the temple and, you know, tracking and doing whatever the rites of passage would be in my pristine state, I still was blessed to be able to have an experience where a man is teaching me aspects of what it means to be a man, even though it would never be as great as what it would have been as if my father was teaching me that. But this is what is exploited in us by the society. The white male knows that his ancestors, what they did in terms of breaking everything up in terms of our family. So they use that now to make it seem like we're using that as a crutch. But the only reason why it's still relevant in conversation is because it's never been remedied. You see, it's still controversial in that. So different buzzwords are created to desensitize everybody, especially black people, to the importance of ma'at in the situation, which eventually would benefit all of us as human beings, because then we could finally get past it. But you can't get past the trauma until you deal with the trauma. And because we are forced still in the trauma, we're still in the Holocaust. We're still in the Grand War of the ancients and the moderns. That's still going on. You are the ancients. The moderns are trying to kill you. The moderns are those people who believe in modern society so much that they deny the voice of the Most High. So that's anybody that represents that equation. However, within this parameter and paradigm of society, it's been orchestrated by a specific group of Caucasian, Jewish, Russian, French, American, Anglo-Saxon males who all happen to just own all of the companies and own all the rights to the companies and own all of the governments and everything else. But there's no real connection other than the connection they show us every day on the news, on the YouTube, and everything else. But if you point these things out, again, the buzzwords come up: conspiracy theory, conjecture, unsubstantiated. Where are your sources? I could tell you I got the source from Captain Kangaroo. If the shit is the truth, it's the truth. It don't matter what I'm saying. If Captain Kangaroo told me it's the truth and it happens to really be true, then it was the truth. It doesn't matter that Captain Kangaroo don't exist. This is how they run their society. Everything in their society they tell you, they make you believe it through a fiction. So why when you do it with the reality, it's a problem. It's like that because you are the problem. You know what I'm saying? You're a problem for them. It's a problem that you don't want to participate to the level that everybody else does for them. They'd rather everybody else not, and you do in situations like that. They'll kill everybody else to get you to do it just to show you how much they want you to be down, just because you don't want to be down. But the more you want to be down, the more they put you through to get it. So if you're an artist and you sell 100,000 units on your own, the label come knocking at the door and offers you a deal, which means the deal got to be way more than what you could have made on your own, because if you keep going on that trajectory, you'll reach the $100,000 mark or whatever within 4 to 5 years on your own without them. But they have a vested interest in being involved in everything that you do, because they want to say that you were a part of them in some way. They need some way to take credit, because a parasitic organism has to subsist on the entire organism. You understand? The parasites that swim around the shark swim into its gills, swim into its mouth. They clean the whole shark. Shark ain't got to do nothing. They eat all of the excess that's left. So why is it when you analyze these things to this extent, if we keep going based on this extrapolation, you can see that society itself has already reached the level of or past the point of no return. They tell you historically that these people are part of one aspect of civilization and the other, and that nothing really existed here before they got here? How can that be? There was nothing here when you got here? Nothing? Then where the hell these temples was at? Where these cities was at? You mean to tell me you built all of these highways throughout the country within a certain amount of time? All of them? There were no roads? There were no cities? There were no temples? Nothing? Of course not. Man, and answer me this. How would you even know if they existed when you were locked into the colony? You couldn't even go into the interior of the continent. You didn't even know what was out there. You didn't know what was out there until the mid-1800s, 1830, around Jefferson. And Jefferson only found out because he bought a bunch of Montauk princesses and locked them up in Monticello and did all types of experiments and stuff on them and married into their family and fought and ransomed them to then get the secrets of the land, where he wrote down the original Vril language. He wrote it. He translated it. I write about it in my book. And it to such an extent that from that, so many Masonic people were interested in that he began to house that and needed a place to do it. And then put it up into the Library of Congress. Tried to buy it. They didn't let him do it. Somehow mysteriously burned to the ground. Somehow he had the insurance on it. He wound up building it back up and filling it up with what he wanted it to be filled up with. The stuff that him and Horace Greeley and Thaddeus Stevens had came up with during the whole Reconstruction Manifest Destiny thing. That then led to the Declaration of White Independence on November 4th, 1899. Some odd years later, November 4th, 1899, November 4th being under Scorpio, in Wilmington, Virginia. That then led to what they refer to as, in history now, the Wilmington race riots that went from Wilmington, Virginia, and culminated at the destruction of Black Wall Street. How come they doing specials on this on the History Channel? Because they don't want to talk about that. They'll have shows about how the states got their shape, but they won't have a show on who they took the states from, who was living in the states before they got there. And the thing is, ain't no Caucasian people advocating for that, for the real history to be told. Besides us in mainstream media, Al Sharpton, what are these people talking about with education? They talking about sending your children back to the military installation schools. They're not talking about building schools for your people and your children. They're talking about creating better situations in the schools that exist now that have already proven to be failures. Proven. How did they get to be failures, though? A lot of the teaching staff and a lot of the especially after the takeover of the school systems by the state government, when they abolished the chancellorships, that's when all the schools went to hell, because a mayor is not a school chancellor. He didn't go to school to learn how to educate children. He learned how to balance the state budget, make cuts, and take money to keep the state going. You don't care about what you learn, how much you learn it. And then when people started failing outright, based on the fact that the education system itself is based on, again, Caucasian, Anglo-American, financial, social, racial dominance. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not something that I thought about based upon my fear of the white man and his power and my, not having a father in the house. Like, that has nothing to do with what happened. I'm talking about shit that happened, not anything that I made up. I know the difference between a fictionalized novel and novelized fiction. when you understand grammatical law. They call it grammatical law for a reason. People used to get hung behind that when they was forcing us during the Re-Inquisition to adopt their version of Vulgate Latin. They was putting Moors on the racks to get you to learn how to speak like them. They did the same thing after the Moriscos came over here and conquered Mansa Musa. And they moved right on up. Because they followed the route that we came up during our expansion into the greater interior of the country. The same route that they're trying to build this pipeline through is the same route that we, as original Tumawankan, Olmec, Washoe, Washita, 5 civilized tribes, Tribe of Ben Ishmael, Wabanaki, Abenaki, Blackfoot, Kanahassawa, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Muskogee, all of them, the same route is the same route that they're using with this whole pipeline going from Mexico into Canada, that they went over to the G20 summit to discuss how they're going to flip it to the Canadian, American, and Mexican people. Because the American Union, the North American Union has been in effect. We talked about that on the, the F tape, however many years ago when they was denying it. We have pictures of these flags and these people together where they created a version of all 3 flags in one, and they all standing under it. Like, would I Photoshop that? Like, I created this? No. This is what they did. So now he's just fulfilling everything that Bush had to do. Because he has no power. He has no integrity. You know what this dude said about the whole Penn State shit? He said, well, the faculty and students and people in Penn State have a lot of soul searching to do. But you'll call Kanye West a jackass. You see what I'm saying? Like you'll have a beer with the cop that whipped your boule buddy's ass to the point where they now going trying to put the cuffs that they put on his ass in the Smithsonian. Like, no, this is not a society in which we are supposed to be existing in its particular aspect. So I don't know. Let me see if the brother is on. Yeah. You're going to speak to Brother Imani. Peace, brother. You on? Peace, King. How you doing?
I'm maintaining God. Definitely, listening to the show. One thing I can say is that everybody likes the word righteousness, but don't want to go to the path to reach that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Almost like a fashion statement with head wraps and incense and oils and stuff to sell to the public. And it's real whack and it's real sickening because that's not how the ancients carried themselves. They weren't selling the oils and stuff to people promoting. They lived their culture. You know what I'm saying? They lived their science. They were their science. You know what I'm saying? And all I see now is a whole bunch of so-called leaders of the community. Well, they label themselves leaders. First of all, if you are a leader, the people made you a leader, not you. You know what I'm saying? And, you have these guys sitting here promoting, you know what I'm saying, big-time lectures and what have you, but they're not really doing it to really free people. They're doing it to make money. And that's whack.
It is, brother. It's very whack.
You know what I'm saying? And that's not what we're here for. We're here to get free. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But that was on my head when you was dropping some heavy stuff just now. But as far as the update on my brother, he's a very hard man to contact. I did speak to him a couple of days ago, and he seemed a real shooken, real scared. You know what I'm saying?
I can imagine so.
Yeah, for real. It's funny because every time I was able to contact him, I can't get to you. You know what I'm saying? So, the brother did say that right now I seen the videotape after I got on your radio show, and it's crazy. They literally took the man's dreads and banged him against the cement, his head against the cement. And this is while he was handcuffed. You know what I'm saying? And one of the police officers started punching him in the head. This is while he's handcuffed.
He's an all-white man.
All white men. The other
was a ritual.
cops.
It was definitely a ritual.
Yeah. I can't believe it. I can't believe that these people know that they're being taped and they're still doing it.
Yeah.
Like if I know that I'm doing something I'm not supposed to do and I will get sued, then I'm gonna pause. So that leads me to believe that they have so much insurance money supposedly covering their asses that even if you was to get $17 million or $20 million, they could still the corporation can still live. So how can we kill the corporation? That's the real situation. How can we dead the corporation? When
way to do it.
Yeah, pardon me, God. What can be done to shut it down completely? Like, and you know what I'm saying? And I ain't talking about just liens or anything. I'm talking about what can you do to shut the machine down? That's what we really should be talking about in these lectures. How to shut the machine down. Yes.
Well, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, one way to do it is to one thing, you can't do it all at once.
Yes, sir.
Because if the white man was gone today, should get worse quick.
Yep.
And that's how ill things have gotten. So incrementalism is a means of maintaining a consistent form of rebellion, and that happens in a periodic fashion when people, the same way people get up and they do flash mobs and shit like that. Like a real flash mob is everybody at Goldman Sachs, and all the people who do the real work at Goldman Sachs or at any of these banking cartels or whatever. Peace. Peace. Yo. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
See, right? See, right where we're going in, right? So if they do that.
I wanted to drop something real quick. Pardon me, God, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I did want to interject real quick and drop something. While we were watching the tape that day, this ex-black chief, like, not the desk sergeant, but the watch commander. Yeah. Yeah, he came to his house. You know what I'm saying? And I guess the brother, I don't know how they knew each other, but the brother was like, "I want to help you." You know what I'm saying? And he sat down with us and he started helping us write out. Because what he told us was, you want the lawyers to represent you properly, because they're going to lawyers represent you, but they don't represent you in the way that you need them to represent you properly. You know what I'm saying? So he, structured, the events that took place in a way where when he rewrote it, he can give it to the lawyer, and the lawyer can understand and make sure that he, represent him properly. But the main thing that this particular ex-chief said, I'm not going to mention his name, but he really dropped it on us. He said that they use a program. The program they run is called Comstock. I don't know if you ever heard of that, bro.
Yep.
And what he was saying was it was a program that he said initially the program was set up to pretty much like the where the crime is really the target areas for the crime areas. Like, we have certain parts of the Bronx, certain parts of Rockaway, South Jamaica, Queens. Mm-hmm. That program, he said initially it was set up just to target those areas. It wasn't necessarily meant to target everybody, which is what they're doing now. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So he said that what happened was, it's just like a business. You have the watch commander. He has to report every month. So if he doesn't report in a way where it looks good, he's going to get demoted or, he get, fired or what have you. So he has to constantly, make his arrest records or what have you high so he can get promoted or he can get put on. The problem happened in that particular system where there was a couple of years where they was rounding up all the bad guys, supposed bad guys, you know what I'm saying? And they rounded everybody up within a 3 or 2 year span to the point where they had no bad guys left. Exactly. So the new watch commander that would come in, he would, want to get the same arrest records that the last commissioner got or ward commander got. And he was trying to figure out what he did to get that. So so pretty much they're at a point right now where they are trying to bother everybody now, even if it means violating their rights. So they have a percentage thing they do where they'll 90% of the people that they stop, they guarantee that at least 10% will have something on them, and then 3% of that 10% will have at least have to go to court. Mm-hmm. So with this racist guy, I'm gonna say it because from what I'm getting, Raymond Kelly is saying that he's taking away. He's using that 3% for everything to justify everything. He's saying that all the guns are being taken away through that 3% who's getting locked up and going to court and what have you. 3% now. So how is it that 3%, which is not a lot in that particular pie, is you're able to eradicate all the guns, or use that as an excuse to insinuate that crime is going down with that 3%? And it's Europeans that are clapping to this. You know what I'm saying? Right. And what he said was, exactly, because they don't understand. See, the politicians and the lawyers, they don't understand the mechanics of the daily routine of the officers, their policies. No. Because the police commissioner will go out there and say, we're fighting crime and we're stopping stuff, and we don't appreciate abuse. We don't appreciate abusing anybody. But when he gets back in that office and they go on their routes, an 8 o'clock route, what have you, he'll tell the officers, you better lock up as many people as you can. You know what I'm saying? But the people don't know that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
See, this is to add on to what you're saying. This goes back to the crack era. The Comstock situation really had its origin in Vietnam. This is when you see them in Vietnam going into the village and just kicking everybody over and just killing people and shooting people. That's the justification of war. This is also the provocate response. So when no response is given, they take it to the level where the person is either dead or in that, 1, to fulfill the ritual, 2, based on fear, 3, based on them fulfilling the quota, 4, based on them getting off on it, and 5, based on them feeling some sort of inferior power, 6, on them being possessed by the very bad that they think they're serving. So crime constitutes 24% of the national growth average. That means that New York crime specifically constitutes 13 or 14% of that. So if you're saying that they, out of a 90 percentile rate, have to then lock up 10% of people, and then of that 10%, 3, let's say 5 to 3%, then get taken all the way to some sort of conviction or death. This is, like you said, the biomechanical mechanism that is keeping their society going. And because they're perpetuating this ritualistically against black people have not stood up and done it. Instead, black people have joined up with it.
That's
Sean
right.
Bell, the people that killed him was black. People that killed Sean Bell was black. And this is what white people use to justify that. They say, well, your man is helping me do it, so y'all all ain't shit. And then this guy, who happens to be that, may feel that way about himself, and then takes it not out on himself, now takes it more out on us. This is played out in the movie Boys in the Hood, when the black cop is the one threatening to kill the young black male because he hates himself. So they have created this systematic racist system within the very soul of the original man and original woman and this pig, to the point now where they now, again, are preying on themselves. So what this means is that those of us who are really in that system, specifically in New York, in Philly, in places where these things are happening in mass, there needs to be some sort of mass migration. It's like, what else have you got to lose? Like, if shit ain't working
you're right.
Now.
And take it further than that, it's going to have to be some Masada-type stuff, you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
literally.
Yes, it's going to have to be literally out of there like that, because crime is going down, which means money is going down. Because remember, they have a deficit. They can't maintain anything because they have no money. Everything they're doing is based on a promise to pay, and that promise is based on how many of us they are cashing in on based upon whether or not the certificate is going down. Last week, they had an instance where barristers from the Temple Bar of England came over here, London City, came over here to a court in Pennsylvania, which is the highest court in the land in all of the United States, higher than the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court of Pennsylvania is the highest one in the whole country. But these dudes went there to have a quote-unquote mock trial, wink, wink, which is a trial in which they were seeking to prove the legitimacy of the Queen and the fact of the Queen in jurisdictional powers of the United States, as well as the fact that the United States technically is still an English colony based on the capitulation of Cornwallis. So this went down last week. This came out of or in response to a court case that came down that said that the Queen really has no power. So in response to this is in Europe, this case went down.
Wow.
So that means as soon as that happened in Europe, this bitch said, okay, I'm going to run to America and reinstitute myself, which is why I just saw this chick on, or them talking about her and William and them buying a brownstone in some house on Park Avenue.
Wow.
And you see, so they hedging their bets. So it's looking like, specifically speaking, with this police thing, it's getting to the point where they are really pushing for this open rebellion, and it's starting through the Occupy thing. Because see, the white people, the Occupy thing serves another means for white people too, because those white people that don't want to just come out and say that the white man is the devil, or that they know that black people has been catching hell in all this time, they can use this. You see what I'm saying? This umbrella of the bankers and the whole, aspect of that to be out there and doing some shit with black people. You see what I'm saying?
And you know what's even more ill is that you got a European that's a Republican. Whether I agree with him or disagree with him, the whole point is that Ron Paul is a constitutionalist supposedly, and they not even let him speak. And he a white boy, and he got veteran status in the Congress.
Yeah, he also a 33-degree master, so he can speak for himself. He don't really have a controller.
That's right.
but he still, for whatever reason, is still trying to function in that system. So he may be a constitutionalist in that sense, yet I don't think he's a constitutionalist the way that we are.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Because we're constitutionalists. We're constitutionalists based on the fact that we know that it was really the Articles of Confederation and Association that led to them having that constitution. Now,
the Iroquois Confederacy, yeah.
Right, which is the Continental Congress. So because they can't acknowledge that. See, they hate on that because under that aspect of stuff, when we was running it, they couldn't have no army. So they were inducted into our army. So what happened was after it was switched up and they took they master status, that's when they flipped it over and made it where the Continental Congress or the Iroquois Confederacy wouldn't reconvene. You see what I'm saying? And then in lieu of that, they had to have a Congress that represented that. This is why the Congress of the United States is different than the United States Congress. See what I'm saying? And the United States Congress and the Congress of the United States is different from the United States and General Congress assembled in the family of nations. That's something pre-constitutional that goes all the way from time immemorial, again, that deals with us. But
and another thing, too, and you're absolutely right, because now that I'm thinking about it, you're absolutely right, because if he really was a constitutionalist, then he has to free up some keys.
That's right.
He has to give back the land. He have to start.
Right.
He would have to reset the clock. Huh?
Right. That's what they don't want to do. They don't want to do that. And the clock is resetting itself. The clock is resetting. The universe is already repositioning itself. You already got more than 9 planets in the solar system now. You got like 8 other planets in your solar system right now. You got all of this stuff because all of these are manifestations of shit that's in us, which is why they're trying to kill it. Literally, they're physically trying to kill it. There's no coincidence.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful. And pardon me, God. And, at the end of the day, even when I feel that things are hopeless at times, at least I know where my heart is at, and at least I know the universe at the end of the day is going to give out justice. You know what I'm saying?
To, man.
And that's what matters, because it's very hard to, I remember you said earlier that the more closer, more connected you are to discovering your true self, the more distant you are from the social realities and what have you. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't be antisocial, but what I'm saying is a lot of people tend to, well, not a lot of people, but people who are really trying to get into this thing, they tend to be, not recessive.
Circumstance.
Yes. And, it's not about that. You still have to, you know what I'm saying, His Majesty said you have to deal with the material and the spiritual. So you can't be totally super spiritual because you're still the flesh. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So,
that's right. You came here to have that experience.
That's right. So you still have to enjoy yourself, but at the same time, it's very hard, especially dealing with this conscious community to really be that and all the way and not trying to chase a dollar. You know what I'm saying? Because dudes is hungry. Let's keep it real. Some dudes, I'm not against not having a job, and I'm not against not having a job. I think that if you have a plan and you've learned business, then set your business up and run it. But if you're just running your mouth, talking about, you can't have white man's job and this and that, and you haven't even worked at a job to a business that you really want to accomplish, you're just running your mouth. You know what I'm saying? Which is what a lot of people do. Yes.
That's my thing. My thing is make money however you want to make your money. Right. Make your money. Just know that you're going to have to be okay with that, however that is. And whatever money is whatever it is in the medium right now is what it is right now.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong.
Whatever.
Go ahead.
I'm saying with regards to whatever we think that it is what it is.
That's right. There's nothing wrong with making money. There's nothing wrong with living good. There's nothing wrong with living good. There's nothing wrong with but you can't forget the righteousness. You can't forget the love. You know what I'm saying? You can't forget the truth. and all the things that help you
when you
evolve.
start making it to a point, because it's money, so it's blood on it, so eventually it's going to get to a point where you get enough where certain shit you can see kind of coming down the pipe, and that's when you need to cash out, get your thing, and then live out. But see, everybody want to be in the limelight and all of that, and
yes,
that's cool when you have something to contribute.
That's right.
That's giving. You know what I'm saying? Like, people don't know how to just give. You know what I mean? Like, niggas, it's like we're at a point in time when all we have to do is allow ourselves to be the best that we can be and not feel like another one of us is going to get there first. In the process, if we could if we get that realization as a species, then we would look around and see what needed to be done, and we would do it. It's not. It doesn't matter if it's
You're absolutely right, God. Because to keep it real, God, I'm gonna tell you straight up and down. If you or whoever had the keys to get free, I'm not gonna be big enough. I'm not gonna be big-headed enough to be like, oh, I ain't messing with him because I'm gonna follow that, B. I'm humble enough to see what you did to get to that because I want to get free too. Like it's a saying. Most people, you know, for instance, Bruce Lee is one of the guys I look up to when it comes to martial arts. But most people, when they see idols, people like him or Marley or what have you, they look at these guys and instead of looking to find what they was able to find in themselves to become their individual person, they worship the idol. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because it's easier. Because it's easier.
That's right.
It's easier. It's not so much that it's they want to, you know, be this person, and some of them do. But in being the person, it's like the military agenda, like the Comstock thing. I'm saying that whole process began, you know, in a gradual sense, and then was a manifestation out of the MK program. So these things became a process in which people were trained, or society was being engendered to become the manifestation of what it is. The influx of serial killers, starting with Jack the Ripper, you know, a.k.a. Prince Edward, a.k.a. the Doctor, whatever. He, or that instance, created a ripple in it triggered members of their society to see that these are things that you could still do in civilized society if done in a certain way. And this became a model for the traditional things that were performed and perfected in the sanitariums that existed in late 1800s England as well as America, which were all eugenicized programs. So everything that we are around, seeing, and eating is processed first through the Creator and then filtered in this eugenicized world that we perceive as the modern age. Yet this age, if this is the modern age, then when is the future going to take place? Because according to shit that movies that we was already supposed to have been to these places, why are they still using Newtonian physics? Why are they still perpetuating these false equations dealing with matter and time? Why are they still proposing things in a three-dimensional scale when they're dealing with fifth-dimensional technology? Why are these things? And why is it when we, again, bring these things up in relevance to us, why is that then having to be absorbed into everyone else's perception of what we are? And that's our problem. It's a deep need to please everybody else, and then when it comes to us, it'd be like, this nigga. You know what I'm saying? And it's a automatic thing with some people. I be seeing it sometimes, and then the more I'm around them, I see it easing up. But a lot of times it be based on bullshit that they think they know, based on what they think they heard from somebody who think they know me at a certain time in my life. But at the same time, I talked to an old girlfriend from 4th grade bless this queen, and she told me, she was like, yo, you've always been talking about this shit. She said, from Nick. And I was like, yo, word? She was like, yo, we always were talking about, not like to the level you at now, but like shit like that, like bugged out shit. I remember.
I was there.
Like, yo,
indeed.
that's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. That's me. So people, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Of that. And men. And then exhibited with people around these people. You see what I'm saying? And it's mirrored in something that's necessarily of to the thing. You know, misreading shit and then acting like that's some of the most shallow I know. Shallow people are the most judgmental people in the world.
Yes, sir.
You know? And then the people who really do shit, they are in situations where it's like if you try to claim what you do well, it's a problem. Then it's like, oh, that's too much. It's always a trap. That's the problem. That's not natural. That's not an aspect of cohesive society. But the society and all these societies we came out was so great. So why we all reading about dead people, man? Why we all
not even that. Why is it that if we so great and it's in our DNA, and which I still believe in to an extent, why is it that when I'm out in New York on the train, I see dudes with high heels with open toes? You know what I'm saying? Like looking like females, literally enjoying their feminism. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, something has to be initiated inside your DNA to say, wait a minute, this is not right. Like, when is that going to happen? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If we have divine genes, something in the universe that we're connected to has to trigger that kind of response in the collective. You know what I'm saying?
That's all I'm saying. And if that be the case, then let that be. Whatever you say you want, you be that crip, be the illest crip you could be. But what was the intent doing that for? Did you intend your life to be that? You see? And if not, then well, that you not saying that it's grip back. But they have to put that disclaimer in to offend people, take things so literal. You see what I'm saying? That then they don't hear what I'm saying. They just get mad at what I said. So is what I'm saying the problem or what I'm talking about the problem? The problem. You want to be anti if you're too and you can, then why do you girl? See? If you're two women and the one a real sexy, do you then become physically look like a point where you classify they have in these cultures? This is the cultures we're talking about. Do you then and then why use a phallus then to woman? If it's just about the vaginal area, then it's all about that, right? No, it's about penetration, but penetration comes from a man. So what that says to me as a rational person is that you would rather have physical archetypical representation of a male energy in you, but you want it from a woman that opposed to a with a living phallus. You understand? So does that mean that this man, you feel this man is not good enough for you, or you are not good enough for this man? This is my thinking. But my thinking in this rationale is not a judgment on what you're doing. This is an assessment. You see what I'm saying? I am making of you. that is allowing me how to communicate with you and offend you. A man, right? A real man don't have to do all of that. If I don't like you, I don't like you, right?
That's right.
If you don't like me, you don't like me. Then let's say that. But you want to create a situation and get people against me, or that's what's really going on, right? Which then creates a system, a cyclical system that perpetuates a inferiority complex, a false superiority complex in the people involved. And this is a psychological manifestation that has come out of liberal genocide society, in which gender and responsible harmony is disrupted, in which now energy channels have to be reorganized to essentially desire a person naturally is. You understand?
And
if it was natural like that, you would be able to have a baby like that. You have to scientifically be ejected to be able to, as a man, to hold baby. That means
and you know what too? And you know what too? That now I understand why in the Kemetic system you had to go through the mystery school for 42 years.
Exactly.
Before you became an adept, before you became a functioning person in society.
Exactly. And by that time, he was ready to be out, because the life expectancy was like, if you was 50, you was like an old man.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy. It's crazy, but I understand why certain things were the way they were for certain reasons. I'm not saying it is possible to have adepts at 16, like Nobuddin Ali and all that kind of stuff, but in general, we are out of whack. And I think that because our ancestors started to see that we were out of whack cosmologically, they had to create systems to try to buffer that particular thing that was coming into existence, which was causing unharmonious, a response to the planet. You know what I'm saying? That's why we needed to have these kind of schools.
The more they perpetuated that, the more they realized that certain lines within the DNA species mind pattern had to be accessed at certain points in history. And that's when these people came all as contemporaries of each other, got activated, and did what they did to allow us to be here on the phone talking about this now, and all of the people being participating in it on the level of equality, based upon the fact that regardless of what school of thought you represent, as a super Heru, you are the manifestation of that which has come to understand what this thing is and move into the new time and use that energy in the most productive manner as possible. So if you're going to be a warlord, be the illest warlord you can be, but don't just be a warlord over black people. If you're going to be a killer, hitman, kill everybody. Don't just kill black people. If you're going to be a whatever, don't stop targeting black people specifically. And black people start doing something about it. Speak up vocally. Like, make these niggas put this. If it's like that, they need to, with as many videotapes as they got every day, people should be flooding the internet with images of police brutality. Make this shit an issue. The same way these white people, these hipsters, these assholes move into these areas and act like, try to be real cool because they having sex with the black man who's been in the area for a long time or whatever, trying to come up, or the black woman who's trying to get out of the area or whatever. Them white people who have them little parties on their roofs where they showing the movies on the side of the building, all of a sudden, right? Of the old crack house when we used to live in the building, right? They showing they little movies and shit. Have them out there showing images of police brutality. Start schooling these white people. Occupy these white people's minds the same way they're trying to occupy your mind.
Yeah, and you know, so with all the police brutality that's been going on for decades now, why haven't black people occupied the police stations? Like how the white boys occupying the bank.
They ain't gonna do that. or the white boys occupied and burned down in university just so that way they could protest they child molesting Freemasonic brother.
The coach can't believe that shit.
Molester, yes. Just like just like them white people that got caught stealing them babies out of Haiti by the Haiti government.
It's like the Europeans is more revolutionary than the black people. I'm front.
That's right, because their mission is to warp the generational aspect of all melanated and dark-skinned people on the planet. You don't believe me? Look around you. Look around you. Look at the one that you with. Look at the one that you with. Study the one that you with. Do the knowledge. Look at the differences. Then look at the similarities. And then notice if the similarities are similar based on human aspect or based upon societal norm. So it's normal for somebody to, let's say, take a bath. It's not normal for somebody to take a bar of soap and leave huge amounts of hair, almost like dog hair, all over the soap. That's not natural. Black people do that. I've never lived with a black person that did that. You know, there's certain things that only people who've been around Caucasian people understand how they get down, and they've been showing us how they live since we've been little, from different strokes and everything else. So Ricky Schroeder, Silver Spoons, all this, they do what they want. They can kill and eat and do whatever they want. But the minute you try to do anything that empowers you as an individual, you are the issue. So again, you are the problem to the situation, to the equation of society, knowledge, and awakening equals pi. So in that, you represent two aspects of the equation, yet the first aspect of the equation is the dominant beginning. So you, us, have to figure out how much of it we're going to let in and how much of it we're going to put out to get away from. So again, my solution, these white people moving into your neighborhoods, out of Minnesota, out of these places, have a mass migration back to the Midwest and everything else. Let them have these places, because wherever they go, that's where the earthquake and everything else going to hit. That's how they do it. They move around you to protect themselves from the wrath, because they know what they're doing. And I don't care if you think I'm racist. I don't care if you think I'm racist. I don't care if you think I hate white people, because I don't. Some of my good friends are people of Caucasian descent, yet they know how I feel ancestrally about the situation that have got us all to this point. But I'm not holding them accountable if they don't play the part. And that's anybody. If once you start acting like start coming at me like I'm from you or whatever, no. If I'm trying to sell it, I'm trying to like force this knowledge, and I don't force this on nobody. Whoever wanted it, you know, and who don't. But it's not to judge who should and who shouldn't, so long as they don't play the part of the antagonist in the story, you know. So, yo, brother, thank you for coming in.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I just want to say December 9th is his criminal court date, and I will be there, 9 o'clock, 9:30 in the morning, and, you know, I'll try to get him to say something to you or text you directly at least, you know what I'm saying? But I will get everybody an update after December 9th.
Yeah, about the whole proceeding through you, and hopefully they'll come down there and support. How is that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Peace, God.
So with that, brother, thank you. So yeah, anybody wants to holler at me, definitely hit me up at the House of L at hotmail.com and enrolled in our. Thank you. And inshallah, anybody else who needs any that I see the do as well as www.superheruradio.com, www.sagasod.com. Also, those people in Baltimore in 2011, Morris Park, Tyler will be there, so you could get information to the event 209. That's 410-209-87. For coming through, as always. I love you. Friday. Yeah, this Friday. And peace.